David Shapiro, I was going to say the JSE's longest serving stockbroker, is our special guest today. But before I declare him the longest serving stockbroker, let me hear from the man. And we'll talk about everything, by the way, from what they were buying in the 1970s, Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as Ralph and Peter, new CEO of MTN Group. All will be revealed. By the way, what will also be revealed will be David's giant secret. So stay right through to the end. David, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Were you born a stockbroker or a broker?
I was. Well, not really. My dad was a stockbroker. I either wanted to be a professional soccer player or an artist. I think the last thing I wanted to do is to become an economist or get involved in the stock exchange. But I did do accountancy at university, so there was a natural attraction to get me into the stock market, and I loved it. Remember, I was brought up on the floor.
Yeah.
When I first joined the market, I was trading on the floor, and I loved the atmosphere there. I loved the noise. I loved everything about the stock market. But of course, we had to adapt to electronic trading. So now I sit at home all alone in a corner looking at a computer.
Can we declare you the longest serving stockbroker on the JSE? Do you know if there are any more like you out there?
I'm sure you'll dig them out of holes. Ian Cruikshank, I'm sure there's a couple of other old timers as well. I think you can test them by asking questions. If you start asking and say, what was Free State Cyclops, or what were Leibert's Flay, or something like that. If they know exactly what it was, then you know how long they've been there. So you can ask them some questions. We'll soon test whether they spies or not, or whether they've genuinely been there.
Yeah. So you have been around a long time. You have watched technology come in and transform trading on the floor from what were in those days, what were they? Someone stood in a circle and called out the share prices, or what they still do in Zimbabwe, where you sit around the table and someone writes on the board and says, okay, now this share price, who's buying and what have you?
Yeah, I was there. Godfrey, when I joined the market in 1972, there was no direct dialing to the UK or outside of South Africa. We could dial direct to Durban or Cape Town, but not to the UK. So a lot of our connections with overseas clients, remember, in the 1970s, foreigners were very involved in our local market, particularly in the mining industry. But in those days, we had to deal by telex, and we had to book phone calls if we wanted to deal there. So that was in 1972. Direct dialing only came in 1978. So arbitrage was a very strong instinct on the market. What that meant is that you would take advantage of the price differences between our gold shares, our mining shares, and there were many that were traded on other markets. So you would take advantage between the price differences. If you could buy cheap gold shares in London and bring them back here and sell them here, you would do so. So that was the kind of market that I grew up in, a very, very resource-based Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And the blue ribbon, the most prized possession you could have was the top analyst in gold. Remember, there was something like 40 different gold miners traded on JSE, all of which were pretty good operations.
Yeah,
So
and
that's where I come from.
I imagine you needed to have a friend called a telephone operator, so you're able to get your calls through quicker than anybody else for you to realize the arbitrage opportunity. Now, I came to Johannesburg in 2001 and started covering this market. What you didn't know then was that you were one of my live saviors. So when I came in, it was hard as a black reporter to be able to talk to stockbrokers and get commentary on the market. Even if you wanted commentary on the rand, for instance, you phone in with your black voice and someone picks up the phone and they say, oh, he's not available. You get your white colleague to phone and you get it going. How has the market changed for you, David? This is how it changed for me.
I would never have done that to you.
You saved my job anyway.
Crazy. Is that how long I've known him? Since 2001?
100%. It's been a long while.
Yeah, but Lucania was Lucania from Business Day. I remember he was at my 50th birthday party, which was in 1997. I mean, he was. I think black reporters, go back a lot longer than you did.
True.
So I've never known that kind of prejudice. I never, knew it existed. But anyway, you've done okay.
It has changed. I've done okay. I've survived. And Lukhanyo actually came through to Bloomberg after me. And yeah, he had a struggle as well getting the Bones guys in particular to respond to him. But we have moved on from those times. Let's talk a little bit about the kind of market that we are seeing these days, David, and the kind of opportunities that you, as someone who has watched the markets transform over all these years, see. I mean, the other day, Warren Buffett started buying gold. It is changing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's changing. You have to change with it. It's lovely to talk about old times, but the kind of markets that we're in at the moment are probably 100 times more efficient than those old fund markets that we used to deal in. They were, there were no computers in those days. Well, we did have computers. I'm lying. Computers were used as giant bookkeeping machines in those days, and of course they helped us process our deals, but nowhere near the kind of efficiencies that we've seen. So we've seen a massive change over the 48 years that I've been on the market in all respects. I mean, the whole South African economy has transformed. But when I was, when I joined gold, we were in a different situation. Remember, gold lost its monetary value probably at Bretton Woods in the late in 1944, where it was replaced by the dollar. But gold was always used as a trading mechanism, in order, to settle trade. And since then, I don't think it's quite captured the imagination of, or it's quite captured its former glitter. But you still get markets, you still get big trade markets. Now, let me tell you about Warren Buffett. I've been following Buffett for many, many years. And the one thing that he's always been against is gold. For the reason is, and I still feel that way, is that you dig up you dig a big hole in the earth, you go in there and mine, blast some rock and extract some gold, and then you dig another hole and put the gold in the hole and have people kind of look over it and guard it. That was Buffett's attitude. Gold never changes. A bar of gold in 100 years' time is still a bar of gold. So when he made this announcement that he was buying Barrick, I think all old people or certain people like me who've been following were absolutely astounded, that he'd made this. And I jokingly compare it to the time when Bob Dylan, who was our hero in the 60s, folk singer, protest singer, etc., suddenly came out one day and started to play electric rock and roll, and everybody was wide-eyed and said, "How could you do that?" Well, that's what Buffett's done. He's kind of gone and bought gold. So do you buy gold? Well, everybody's buying gold. If you want to buy gold, buy gold.
Yeah. As I talk to you, I mean, it's struggling to hold on to that $2,000 level. I mean, 1,996.60 we're talking about today, down almost 1%. Are you a bug? Are you a bull?
No. Gold takes you up and spits you out. So be careful. It's and there was a great quote by Mark Bristow, who I value very highly, like Mark Cutifani. I think he's a great miner. He's running Barrick Gold, which is, funny enough, the mine that Buffett has bought into. But he made a statement the other day, and he said, he made the exact statement. He says, 87, I think 2010, gold spiked, but then, of course, came back as monetary conditions stabilized and global economy stabilized and interest rates went up and so on. And he reckons the same thing will happen here. But what he did say is that gold, every time it makes that spike, it comes down and forms a higher base. So Mark, and I'm giving you my own interpretation, will not mine or will not progress his mines for a gold price at these kind of levels. So he's very cautious. I would reckon that he will base his future revenues or future projections on a gold price of 1,200, 1,300, and you must get one's got to be aware of this. So ride the train while it's going, while everybody's recommending buying, gold, buy gold, but know that there's going to be a time soon when you must get out.
It could be a wild ride indeed. Maybe we need to get in some old players as well. Peter Major would have something to say about that. Let's speak a little bit about the JSE and the kind of investment opportunity or no opportunity that it represents. I mean, the past few years, as you would well know, South Africa has underperformed. When you dare we compare against the US, certainly it's been a dismal time for stockbrokers like yourself as well as fund managers here in South Africa. Is there a silver lining here given where we are starting from because of COVID-19 and dare I also say Cyril Ramaphosa?
Hey, you put me in a tough position. I think to be fair, global markets offer much greater opportunities simply because of the quality of the company. I'm not talking politics. I'm not even bringing that in. I'm not talking the rand. Just the technology businesses which are driving us, which have actually helped us over this very bleak period, are where the gains are being made. So if we get dismal about the JSE, don't think we're unique, because if we go to banks and retailers and all other businesses, the leisure businesses that have fallen here, if you go overseas and look at those markets, global markets as well, there's been the same kind of performance. It's no different. Where the difference in global markets has been on the technology side, or on the health or technology side, those kind of businesses that are doing well or likely to do well when we get out of this strange situation that we're in. So there's been a unique opportunity offshore to go into the big these big tech companies. But I have to say one thing, and we've ignored this, is that on the JSE, there are a number of exchange-traded funds that have given you ample opportunity to participate in this. My favorite at the moment is the China Fund, the Satrix China Fund. There's Signia's Fourth Industrial Revolution. There's the NASDAQ. There's the S&P 500. Don't ignore the Europe. Don't ignore the world markets and that. So, by staying on the JSE, there has been plenty of opportunity to participate in what we've been seeing in the market. And to be honest, that's where we can't get money out. That's where we've been focusing our positions, as well as Process and Naspers. Don't ignore them. They're super companies.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. But do you see froth, David, perhaps a little bit in some companies like Apple or the FANGs, as you guys in the markets call them? I was looking at some figures just yesterday, actually, and I noticed that Apple's market capitalization is sitting close to $2 trillion. And then I remembered, of course, as an African, 1.3 billion of us. What's our total GDP, David? About $2.6 trillion. And I'm thinking, a company employing 137,000 people, deriving more value than 1.3 billion people.
I don't like to confuse my head with all those kind of facts, so it baffles you. But what it does show you is where the global economy is going. Sure. The old days, or when we were brought up buying drinks companies or packaging companies or tobacco companies have gone. Today, we're entering into a digital economy. The way that we conduct our lives now is completely different to the way that we conducted our lives a few years ago. But Godfrey, just to answer your question about the froth, we're in a unique situation. I've been through many, many ups and downs. I think I've been through more downs than ups. I've known more miserable days on the market than happy days. But I think if we look at this unique situation, the situation that we're in at the moment has been brought about not by a financial crisis, but by a health crisis. Yes. And what's happened is that in order to avoid this health crisis kind of moving into a major slump, or transforming into a major slump and a deep depression, governments have had to come in and bail their economies out, and rightfully so. The people who are suffering at the moment, it wasn't their choice to suffer, and government has to come in. Where am I getting to is that what's happened as a result of that is huge amounts of money have been pumped into the economy in various forms. And as a result of that, interest rates are zero. In fact, if you go into the US, and you go into Europe and most developed countries, your bond rates, and these are the safe investments that pension funds make. If you look at the US, your bond rate is 0.7%. So we're talking decimal points, but inflation there is 1.5%. So in fact, if you hold a bond, you're losing value, you're losing real value. So if you ask about froth, to me, there's more froth in that market than in the technology market, where the companies who are actually making money, growing their profits at double digit, at double digits, and likely to do so. So if you said to me, which bubble do you want, the tech bubble or the bond bubble? I'm choosing the tech bubble. So I'm going to stay with Apple.
So don't say we didn't tell you about the future with David Shapiro. But before you go, I have to unveil your secret, David. Like you, I do sometimes fall Arsenal. These are the good times. They are back, don't you think?
Why do you? Just don't let your children support them. Do a favor. That's the only thing. Because I'm third. No, my dad started to support them in 1927.
Sure.
1927, and it's passed on to me, and it's passed on to my grandchildren. So we've got 4 generations of Arsenal supporters, and they suffer. So you want to, we've suffered more years than anything, but we did win the cup. So
it's okay. It's okay. The 90s did come. The 90s did come now, David. Don't forget that. My boys are safe, and I am safe because they don't like soccer. They speak basketball. Today, David, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.